Hi, this is Kathy with City Farmhouse Studio. Today I want to talk to you about the Winter Windows hat, this little beanie that is made out of just some simple cables to create a nice textured window pane effect. The link to the pattern is in the description below. For this project, I did use the Premier Wool Select yarn. It's an easy care wool, 3.5 ounce, 100 grams, 273 yards, 250 meters. It is a 75% acrylic, 25% wool, and it is a category 3 light. I did get 12 wraps per inch from this. Now this yarn I did have left over from my Winter in the City top that I did last year, and of course between then and now they have discontinued this yarn. However, they do have a bamboo line that looks very similar in gauge to this. There also are some other brands that I will link below that have the same 75% acrylic, 25% wool. Paintbox is the manufacturer. For this, I will be using another Premier yarn. It is cotton fair. It's a 52% cotton, 48% acrylic, category 2 fine. From 273 yards on the Wool Select, there are 317 yards in this. I did still get 12 wraps per inch on this, so I am keeping the same gauge with my 7 needles that you will need. But for you, please, whatever yarn you do, please make sure that you get the gauge so that your hat fits. Besides the yarn and the 7 needles, I do have a circular set so we can knit in the round. You will need a cable needle, some stitch markers. I do use one that's a different color to designate which one is the beginning of the round. And then I also have my favorite little bitty safety pins so that I can mark the repeats in the cable round, so I can kind of keep track of where I'm at in the pattern. So to begin, you are going to start off with the long tail cast on. You take the length of the circumference of the hat, so 19 inches, and go by 3 times that, and I always go just a little bit extra just to give myself a little bit of extra space. I'm only going to do a partial mini hat for this tutorial. So to begin a long tail cast on, loop the yarn, and then I have it looping on the top so that whenever I tuck it under, it creates a slip knot. Then the short end, or the end that is what you measured out, will go over your thumb, and the other over your pointer finger. You hold the other both strands in your hand, kind of create a slingshot. You're going to pick up the outside of your thumb to what's going towards your index finger and pull through to create a loop. So thumb to index, thumb to index, and you're going over the strand that goes to your thumb. So that's creating the loop. You then just pull tight to form that bottom edge. I made 4 stitches, but I still had that stitch on from the slip knot, so that counts as your first stitch. So even though I've already made 4, so far the total is 5. So you go ahead and continue this to create the 96 stitches that are called for in your pattern. So once you finish your cast on, you're going to want to go ahead and slide it all the way down onto your other needle so that we can close the circle and make it a hat. Now I want to make sure I separate my working yarn to the tail end yarn that I don't want. And then I also want to go through and make sure that the stitches have not twisted, because we don't want a twisted chain around our hat brim. All right, so now I am set up to go ahead and begin. But since this is the beginning of the round, I do want to take my odd stitch marker and go ahead and place that so I know exactly where the round is as I go through the pattern. And from here on out, the pattern is a chart. So you want to go all the way down to the bottom because we kind of build up as we're working the rows. And because we're working towards our left as we knit, we read the pattern from right to left. So the bottom corner right stitch you can see is a purl. So we want to go into that chain or long tail cast on stitch, that first stitch, and go ahead and make a purl stitch. And then our next stitch is one knit followed by two purls. And we keep repeating the one knit, two purls. And then as we're reading, we see that this repeat stops. My yarn back around to work. So I'm to a knit stitch. So I'm to a knit stitch, two purls, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Do my one knit stitch and one purl, and that completes the 12 stitches. Go ahead and take another marker, put that in, and continue on with repeating that row. So one purl, two knit stitches. Sorry, one knit stitch, two purls. And just continue repeating that pattern, marking every 12 stitches. So once you get to the end, you're going to go ahead and slip your stitch marker and repeat that row of one purl, one knit, two purls, one knit, all the way around. So once you finish that row, you're going to go ahead and repeat it one more time around, and then you're going to get to row 4. And row 4 is where we start to get into the cables. And there's two cables. There's a right leaning cable and then a left leaning cable. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the row 3 and go to row 4 because I think you know how to knit and purl in that pattern. So for row 4, it begins with a purl and then it goes into a right leaning cable. So that means this second stitch is going to come over the front side of the stitch that we have next. So I'm going to take a cable needle, take that stitch and drop it behind because I want this next stitch to lay in front. So I'll go to this stitch, knit that. Now some people can knit from this, some people don't even need a cable. I'm not that talented. And go in and knit that stitch, being careful not to switch or twist that stitch. Now, so that's the right leaning cable. Now I want a left leaning cable where this stitch comes in front. So I'm going to drop it to the front side because I want it in front. Knit the second. Put that back on my needle, being careful not to twist it. And knit into that one stitch. And that's my left leaning cable. Now I'm going to purl 2. And repeat that. So the first is a right leaning cable. So this first stitch needs to go to the back. That back on my needle, knit into that. Then I want a left. So knit the second stitch. What I had dropped, I'll knit that. And now I'm at the 12th stitch of the pattern repeat. See those nice little handy stitch markers? Let you know. And that one is a purl. So we purl, past the stitch marker, purl again, and we're going to repeat that right leaning cable. So the first stitch I want to drop to the back, knit, this one back up, knit it, now the left leaning cable, so we drop that to the front side of our work. And you just keep repeating these two cables in this pattern, two purls in between the sets of cables, until you have completed the round and are back to the front, or to your stitch marker that designates the beginning of the round. Okay, so once you finish that round, select my marker. I never remember where the beginning of the rounds are, and to help count stitches, I just go through and mark one of those cables with the safety pin, and that way I know, okay, that's row 1 of that set. So looking at row 5, it continues with those same stitches of the right leaning cables, the left leaning cables, and the two purls in between. However, on the previous row, we had that first stitch being a purl. This one's going to be part of a cable because we want that cable to move out just a little bit. So we drop that first stitch, knit that first one, pick the cable back, that stitch we dropped for the cable, knit into that. Now we do the two purls. Don't mind the safety pin. And we want this cable to continue out. So we will drop this stitch to the front, knit, pick that stitch back up, knit into it, and we go right into our next right leaning cable. So drop that stitch to the back, knit and pick that one up, knit it. We have our two purls, and we end with the left leaning cable. So knit that. So again, it's the same stitches as we did on row 4. It's just moving them out so that we have the 2 purls in between those 2 cable crossings. So then you repeat that for each section, and you continue with just the knits and then 2 purls, continuing in between 2 until you get to row 12. Again, your stitch marker will help you move up. You continue repeating the cable placements to create the windows, moving those around for the different placements. Once you finish the entire row of repeats, you'll need to get to the top of the crown. For the first row, it shows the first stitch being grayed out because that means it is now combined with the second stitch when you knit 2 together. And then you knit 3 stitches, purl 2, knit 3, and then it shows a slip slip knit, which includes this next stitch, the last one on the edge that is grayed out. And that decreases that purl stitch behind the knit. And then you repeat that on. First 2, knit 2 together, knit 3, purl 2, knit 3 again, and then these will be the slip, slip, knit those 2 together. And then you keep repeating that, and it just decreases where you had the 3 between the 2 purls. It'll be 2, and then 1, and then you start decreasing with the purls. Once you are down to just those few little stitches, you will be needing to get a second needle, so 3 needles, because this will be getting too tight. So some DPNs will help greatly. When you have finished your last row of decreases, just take this loose thread, go through all the stitches and pull it tight, weave in your ends, and you are done with your winter windows hat. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss out on any other great tutorials from City Farmhouse Studio. Thanks again. Bye.